The Subcommittee on Energy and Water Development and related agencies will come to order. Welcome to the Subcommittee Markup of the Fiscal Year 2026 Energy and Water Development and Related Agencies Appropriations Bill. I'm pleased to be joined by our Subcommittee Ranking Member, Ms. Capter, Full Committee Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro, and members of the Subcommittee. The FY2026 Energy and Water Bill demonstrates our commitment to safeguarding U.S. national security, unleashing American energy dominance, and advancing our economic competitiveness in a fiscally responsible manner. The recommendation totals $57.3 billion, a decrease of $766 million below fiscal year 2025. The bill delivers strong support for our national defense and provides $25.3 billion, an increase of $1.2 billion above fiscal 25 for the National Nuclear Security Administration, prioritizing the continued modernization of the nuclear weapons stockpile and the United States Navy nuclear fleet. We continue to fulfill our legacy responsibilities to remediate contaminated sites by funding Department of Energy cleanup activities at a total of $7.7 billion. The bill strengthens our nation's energy security, including $1.8 billion for base nuclear energy programs and additional funding, including credit subsidy financing for advanced nuclear reactors and small modular reactors. These funds will advance American leadership in deploying new nuclear technologies, accelerate efforts to regain international dominance in the nuclear market, and provide for our own domestic energy security. In support of the administration's focus on ensuring our nation makes efficient use of its vast fossil fuel resources, the bill includes one of the largest investments in mining production technologies for critical minerals extraction in decades. These investments are essential to secure our domestic supply chain and reduce reliance on foreign sources. The bill also strengthens our economic competitiveness and promotes public safety. The bill includes $9.9 billion for the Army Corps of Engineers, including full funding of the Harbor Maintenance Trust activities and the highest priority, ongoing inland waterways trust fund construction projects to ensure the safe flow of commerce. Funding for the Bureau of Reclamation includes $1.9 billion prioritized to projects that increase water supply and support drought resilience. Our national security and economic vitality are built upon our nation's scientific and technological leadership. This bill includes $8.4 billion for the Department of Energy's Office of Science to ensure America remains at the forefront of scientific discovery and innovation. At the same time, the bill reduces funding by 25% across numerous other department programs, including the Applied Energy Technology offices, to ensure taxpayer resources are focused on the highest priority research and development projects. Finally, the bill includes a number of provisions to codify President Trump's executive actions to protect American values and prevent our resources and intellectual property from falling into the hands of foreign adversaries. Overall, this is a fiscally responsible bill that will strengthen our national security and advance our energy independence. I would like to thank the members of the subcommittee for their valuable input to shape this bill. This subcommittee received more than 5,500 requests from members for community projects, programmatic funding, and bill and report language. We have attempted to address as many of these requests as possible for both Republican and Democrats, with the overall priorities for the bill. Last but not certainly least, I would like to thank staff on both sides of the aisle, and I'm so sincere in this. The way that you all work together for hours on end is incredible. I appreciate staff on both sides of the aisle for their hard work on this bill. I now recognize my friend, the ranking member, Ms. Capter, for her opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to work with you as we gather here to mark up the fiscal year 2026 Energy and Water Development Bill. Chairman Fleischman, I do enjoy working with you, along with all of our colleagues, to develop and pass bipartisan bills, as has long been this committee's practice. I'm truly saddened that this vital subcommittee is being steered yet again to return to a partisan process, present company accepted from that direction for this fiscal year 2026 House bill. I'd like to, as you have, thank our diligent staff for all their hard work, from the minority staff, Scott McKee, Anisha Singe, and Adam Wilson, and on my personal staff, Caitlin Ullin, TJ Loudermilk, and Margaret McGinnis. Thank you all. Energy and water undergird America's way of life. They are not optional, but essential to sustaining life. We are reminded about our purpose, especially as related to water resource development, by the extreme flash flooding that occurred in Texas, resulting in the unnecessary and tragic loss of over 100 lives, with, we believe, at least 160 missing. So many children, so many counselors, just a terrible American tragedy. Further, deadly West Virginia flash flooding this past month significantly damaged over 100 homes, unfortunately taking the lives of at least 7 people, including a 9-year-old boy in Valley Grove, West Virginia. And by the way, a member of our full committee represents that community. We've also seen flooding events in central North Carolina and New Mexico, and our hearts go out to the families of the victims and those communities. Let me be clear, no matter how much the members on the other side of the aisle want to pretend that the climate isn't changing, for the record, the last 10 years are the 10 hottest in recorded history. These recent floods are made worse by that. We had 4-year, 1,000-year floods last week alone. Think about that. 4 1,000-year floods last week alone. It is our duty to prepare our communities and people. We need to build resilient infrastructure. My home in the city of Toledo has spent billions of dollars to fund new sewers and vast underground catchment basins. We are making investments all over our district to protect the Lake Erie shoreline. And in places where infrastructure investments aren't cost-effective, we need to make sure that families will be protected with adequate land planning, not fanciful planning, real planning, and disaster warning systems. I, for one, have brought funding for tornado sirens to our district and built a new Border Patrol station to protect and defend our people. We zone to prevent flooding from threatening human life. It is our job as public servants to dedicate ourselves to addressing the structural shortcomings at the federal, state, and local level that contributed and contribute to the loss of life. Sadly, this Republican energy and water bill does not meet our nation's imperative for the future. America must become energy independent in perpetuity. In a nation of 350 million people, headed to 500 million, 500 million people, we must make energy cost less, especially as grid resilience is undermined. This bill fails to achieve and address the cost of living crisis. Instead, it will result in higher energy bills for families and businesses, as has happened since April of last year. China is investing record levels in energy, but this bill retreats from U.S. global leadership in the future diversified and clean energy economy. This energy and water bill cuts $1.6 billion, or 47%, nearly half, from the Department of Energy's energy efficiency and renewable energy programs. These are vital to delivering clean, affordable, and secure energy to the American people to ensure our nation leads, not lags, in the global race toward an affordable, clean energy future. Our dad and mom taught us how to be thrifty and not wasteful. Dad used to say, it's not how much you make, it's how much you save. He taught us conservation value early in life. Energy and fresh water conservation are good goals for the future of our children and grandchildren. We've made great strides toward energy independence as a country. The United States is producing more oil than ever before, record high production levels, but we are still tethered to a volatile global energy market dominated by cartels and petroleum dictators like OPEC. We must advance an all-of-the-above energy strategy so we are not prone to energy shocks here at home. China intends to be the OPEC for the next century, one which will be dominated by clean energy. More wind turbines and solar panels were installed there last year than in the rest of the world combined. Think about that. A Chinese company has developed an EV battery that can travel 1,800 miles in a single charge and be recharged in just 5 minutes. Any bill that passes out of our committee must not cede the energy future to China, which currently is leading both domestically and internationally. Now, this energy and water bill slashes the Department of Energy's vital programs. Why? It is all part of, unfortunately, some Republicans who plan to cut programs that help all Americans so they can give more tax breaks to millionaires and billionaires in the Billionaire Bonanza Bill. We need to focus on building an economy that works for everyone, not just the wealthy few. This bill revokes $5.1 billion of the bipartisan infrastructure law resources from the Department of Energy programs. That means the U.S. ceding the global lead in, are you ready, hydrogen, direct air capture, battery recycling, and energy improvements in every public and private structure. The bill also eliminates funding for the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. It undermines public-private partnerships that drive large-scale clean energy projects, speed deployment, and propel American industry to lead in the global clean energy economy. In fact, U.S. businesses have canceled more than $15 billion of investment in new factories and electricity projects here at home just this year as a result of the Bonanza for Billionaires bill. Those canceled projects were expected to create nearly 12,000 new jobs, all gone now. Thus, I oppose the Republican cuts to vital energy production and conservation programs at the Department of Energy. Shortchanging these advances pushes our nation backwards and raises energy prices to consumers, as has happened in the recent past, slow-walking energy innovation and failing to modernize our nation's energy grids creates higher prices. In other areas, this bill dangerously shortchanges our national security by slashing $412 million from the Defense Nuclear Nonproliferation Account. This effectively guts our efforts to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons, detect covert nuclear threats, and uphold arms control agreements that keep us safe. All a big gift for Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. Additionally, this bill turns its back on communities still living with the toxic legacy of America's atomic past. It zeroes out funding for the Army Corps program to clean up radioactive waste at early nuclear sites and slashes $779 million from the Department of Energy's nuclear cleanup efforts. Wow. Delaying the cleanup these communities have been promised for decades. I'll note for the committee that one of these sites in the village of Luckey, Ohio, is a very short drive from my home. Finally, the bill includes numerous controversial poison pill policy riders that sadly show extremists among us are not interested in bills that can gain bipartisan support and become law. In closing, I urge my colleagues to oppose this bill. America can and must do so much better in the new age frontiers of energy and water. Remember, and this is the anniversary, Daniel Webster reminded us 200 years ago, and his quote is right up on the highest level of the House of Representatives, "Let us develop the resources of our land, call forth its powers, build up its institutions, promote all of its great interests, and see whether we, in our time and generation, may not perform something worthy to be remembered." This bill is not it. Mr. Chairman, it's a pleasure to work with you and the members of this subcommittee. Hopefully, we can do better. Hence, thank you, and I yield back.
I thank the ranking member. At this time, I now recognize the distinguished chairman of the committee, Mr. Cole, for his remarks.
Thank you, Chairman Fleischman, and thank you to Ranking Member Captor, Ranking Member of the full committee, DeLauro, and to all the members of the subcommittee. Today's measure is a cornerstone of American energy dominance. Under President Trump's leadership, we are once again focused on lowering energy costs and advancing affordable, reliable, and secure power for the nation. The bill before us reflects that agenda in every measure. It makes historic investments to secure our energy systems and reduce reliance on foreign materials. It unlocks technological innovation to propel advancements for the future. It provides robust funding for the Army Corps for high-priority waterways, flood control project, and ports and harbors. And it recognizes that by leveraging our domestic resources, we will continue to produce the cleanest and most reliable energy in the world. Importantly, the legislation is also critical to our defense. With a focus on deploying next-generation nuclear systems and modernizing assets that support submarines and aircraft carriers, we're strengthening the deterrence and restoring our readiness. Chairman Fleischman has developed a bill that reinforces our energy security, strengthens our economy, and builds long-term resilience. I thank him, Ranking Member Captain, and the majority and minority staff for their hard work, and I look forward to supporting today's measure. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I recognize the distinguished ranking member of the committee, Ms. DeLauro, for her remarks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. It's wonderful to be with you. Chairman Fleischman, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member Capter. Before I get started, let me share my appreciation for the subcommittee staff, especially Scott McKee, Anisha Singh, and Adam Wilson. We have the opportunity and the responsibility through this subcommittee's bill to make investments that lower energy costs for American families, promote America's energy independence, and support American manufacturing. Those are the president's goals, are they not? He promised to lower costs on day one. He promised energy independence, stronger manufacturing. I support those goals, but the president does nothing to address the cost of living crisis, which he is actually making worse, and the majority's bill will only take us backwards. I'm opposed to the bill before the subcommittee because it will raise energy costs for American households and businesses, hurt our competitiveness, jeopardize our energy independence, and weaken America's national security. Never mind the fact that we still have not received a complete budget from the White House. We are holding this markup in a completely unprecedented time, with the Congress's authority being challenged by a lawless administration. Since taking office, the Trump administration has stolen resources appropriated by this committee, passed by Democrats and Republicans in the House and in the Senate, for programs and services across the federal government that help to grow the middle class, protect the working class, support small businesses, make sure billionaires and corporations play by the rules, and pay their fair share. The cost of living crisis is felt by every American family, middle-class families, working families, rural families, seniors, and other vulnerable Americans. That the president is not laser-focused on the cost of living crisis. Instead, he put billionaires like Elon Musk in charge of the government. This administration has attacked and destroyed programs created by Congress, funded by the Appropriations Committee that protect our national security and help increase domestic energy production. And among the stolen and frozen funding are dozens of programs within this bill. Just last week, the administration announced they are cutting investments Congress appropriated to support research and development for wind and solar energy production. That is in total defiance of the law. The full-year continuing resolution, which President Trump himself signed in March. This administration has stolen funding for American manufacturers, canceling 24 Department of Energy projects totaling over $3.7 billion, raising the cost of energy for families and for businesses. They pulled out the rug from under American families and businesses when they froze home energy rebates, electric grid programs, hydrogen hubs, battery manufacturing and industrial programs, weatherization assistance and loan programs, all of which Congress enacted and appropriated funding for in law. They are substituting Congress's decisions and judgment with their own, turning Article 1 of the Constitution on its head. These cuts are not numbers on a page. They are not only felt in Washington, D.C. They affect all of our constituents. Just months ago, states across New England, including my state of Connecticut, were ready to begin an ambitious and collaborative effort to increase energy transmission capacity across our region, to build resiliency and lower energy bills. Nearly $400 million was going to be invested through the Department of Energy's Grid Innovation Program to provide onshore connections for offshore wind power, improve the electric grid, and install energy storage through a project called Power Up New England. But the president's day one executive order abruptly halted offshore wind energy projects in their tracks. and the Department of Energy froze Power Up New England's grant. That project was expected to bring enough energy online to power about 2 million homes and reduce energy costs for customers by up to $1.5 billion per year. Dan Dolan, president of the New England Power Generation Association, said, and I quote, "We are now having to do a fundamental reassessment on where else is large-scale electricity supply growth going to come from. We are in massively uncharted territory with respect to energy policy," end quote. The level of uncertainty and chaos now occurring is now not an accident. It is the direct result of this administration's policies and lawlessness. Energy demand is higher than ever and only increasing. Cheap, reliable energy is the basis of a modern economy. We have to increase energy supply or costs will continue to rise for the American people, and we will be dependent on importing energy to meet our goals. If you listen to the president, you might believe that China does not invest in wind energy. If you're listening to the facts, you will know that China leads the world in wind energy production by a substantial margin, and we are only falling further and further behind. Who will lead clean energy future, America or China? This administration and this bill picks the latter. Instead of focusing on ways to help lower energy costs, House Republicans are using this bill to further gut critical federal resources and advance their own agenda. Their cut of nearly half the budget for energy efficiency and renewable energy is a direct attack on the programs that lower energy bills for working families, create good-paying jobs in our communities, and keep America competitive. This bill revokes funding that supports hydrogen energy, battery recycling, and energy improvements in public schools, as well as support for public-private clean energy projects. This is not a red state or a blue state issue. All of our constituents lose when we walk away from clean, affordable, domestically produced energy. Their bill undermines the very programs that help us stop the spread of nuclear weapons, detect nuclear activity, and uphold arms control efforts that make America and the world safer. And it completely defunds efforts to clean up sites contaminated by our nation's early atomic energy program. Weakening these programs at a time of growing global threats is irresponsible and dangerous, and an abandonment of American values. All of this mere days after Republicans passed and the president signed the big billionaire bailout, a law that gives massive tax breaks to billionaires and the biggest corporations while driving up home energy bills for families by as much as 30%. I cannot support this bill. Instead of working with Democrats to lower prices, invest in technology that promotes our energy independence, House Republicans are pushing a bill that raises energy costs for families and businesses and eliminates good-paying jobs. We can and we must come together to improve this bill to help lower costs and support our country's energy independence and national security. Thank you, and I yield back.
Thank the ranking member for her comments. At this time, do any other members wish to make opening remarks? And I will let everybody know that votes have in fact been called. Looks like a fairly lengthy series, so if we have to come back, that's fine, but would open up for any other members who wish to make opening remarks. Okay, yes, Mr. Clyburn.
Chairman, in just a time, I'll make this pretty short, but I really want to remind the members of this subcommittee of how important this whole infrastructure issue is and this legislation that we are about to vote on. Recently, we had a birthday that I celebrated, and most of you probably didn't notice it. It was the 150th birthday of Mary McLeod Bethune. Mary McLeod Bethune was born and raised in my hometown, home county. She was my mother's favorite person. If you were to go into my office, the biggest picture in my office is a picture of Mary McLeod Bethune. And several years ago, some of you may have joined, when we put our statue here in Statutory Hall, and she became the first African-American to ever represent a state in Secretary Hall. But when she left South Carolina, she went to Florida, Daytona Beach. And I thank Florida for having honored her with that recognition. But she went down there to start a school. And in 1904, when she started that school, almost immediately, she recognized that there was a tremendous infrastructure problem. And that problem led to one of her students getting sick. And then the hospital, local hospital, refused to accept that student because it was white only. There was no hospitals for blacks. So Ms. Bethune then went out and started a hospital in 1911. The McLeod Hospital was established in Daytona Beach, and interesting enough, that hospital accepted both blacks and whites. Now, when influenza struck in 1918, that hospital was a saving grace there in Daytona Beach. I bring that story out today because in this bill, there is a continued effort to not allow, or should I say, to establish prohibitions for funds that will support diversifying the greatness of this country. And I want us to think, I know it's not going to do much good with this bill, but think about this. Think about Ms. Bethune, and think about the stuff that we're denying, the prohibitions we're putting in this bill that will assist communities like that community Ms. Bethune found in Daytona Beach. Those communities still exist today. There are communities in this country today, in my state, where they still are trying to get running water, where there's still schools, where the toilets in the bathrooms don't work. But if this bill were to become law and followed, those schools and things like the Southeast Regional Crescent Commission that aims at trying to do for these communities what Ms. Bethune did over 100 years ago, because it is still needed. And so I wanted to point this out today because I really believe that we ought to really think about what we're doing when we prohibit funds from being spent in certain zip codes simply because we put a tag on them, much like we did back in the 1900s, and now you're back.
Thank the gentleman. I recognize the gentleman, my friend from California, Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Just a few quick points. I really do appreciate the work that went into writing this bill. I'm disappointed that I can't support it as currently written. For some of the same reasons I couldn't support the reconciliation bill a week and a half ago. One is the zeroing out of renewable energy programs. And for me, it's not about ideology, it's about economic competitiveness. Ranking Member DeLauro brought up vis-a-vis China, resilience, and building the kind of energy system that strengthens our national security. I saw the preamble talking about American energy dominance, which I agree is an important goal, but I worry that ceding American leadership in the industries of the future, like clean energy, won't actually help us to achieve that dominance. There's also cuts to energy efficiency programs that help people save on their energy bills. I think we all want to reduce costs. This bill does not do that. Severely underfunds the Grid Deployment Office. That's something I really don't understand. None of us want blackouts, obviously. We're staring down the barrel of exponential load growth from things like artificial intelligence and data centers, and now is the worst imaginable time to throw up our hands on a reliable electric grid. And, for me, when I think about what kind of energy source can grow fast enough and affordably enough to meet the growing demand posed by challenges like AI, what can help our constituents keep the lights on in their homes, their schools, and their businesses, it is clean energy in the long term. Also want to talk briefly about water. The Water Smart program enables us to provide federal dollars to local communities, ensuring they have access to adequate and safe water supplies. This bill slashes Water Smart funding by 75%. And I am concerned at the parochial level about California, and specifically the actions that OMB has taken to zero out the Army Corps construction funding in California. I worry that with the current nature of the work plan and budget request process paired with the somewhat limited community project funding allocations, projects that desperately need funding, including in my district, but including in many other districts, are going to get pushed to the wayside, which is not acceptable. And then on a more positive note, Mr. Chairman, I want to turn to an area of common ground, which is spent nuclear fuel. I appreciate the inclusion of funding for integrated waste management. I was struck that there was language prohibiting funds from being used for private consolidated interim storage without any meaningful guidance from Congress about how to spend those funds to actually move us towards a federal solution. As I've said ad nauseum, at the end of fiscal 24, DOE estimated the total liability for dealing with the waste from only the existing nuclear fleet was $48.7 billion paid out of taxpayer dollars. Adds to the federal deficit without any budgetary or appropriations consideration. Not a very efficient use of taxpayer dollars. And even with the pursuit of reprocessing, which this bill does, Mr. Chairman, we still need a repository to dispose of the waste from reprocessing, and we'll still need a consolidated interim storage facility either alongside a reprocessing facility or on its own. DOE has been on a very positive track for siting these facilities, making progress for the first time in decades through a collaborative siting approach. And when Secretary Wright came before this committee in May, he agreed that we need to allow communities to opt into hosting nuclear waste facilities. Mr. Chairman, I've had no better partner in our efforts to address the nation's spent nuclear fuel on a bipartisan basis than you, and I hope we can work on language to make sure we can continue the good work to make progress on the issue of spent nuclear fuel. I see a nod. That's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
You can record that. So thank you. My staff and I, of course, look forward to working with you on this very important effort. And with that, I will yield back.
Thank the gentleman for his comments, and I will continue to work with him on spent nuclear fuel, and there's tremendous bipartisan and bicameral support. Thank you. Mr. Mervyn.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman Cole, Ranking Member DeLauro, and Ranking Member Capter. Located along the lake shores of Lake Michigan, Indiana's 1st Congressional District is at the center of vital port networks in the Great Lakes. The Army Corps of Engineers Chicago District is an important federal partner in maintaining this infrastructure and facilitating economic development and environmental stewardship in the region. I'm grateful for this bill that includes funding for the Army Corps for the maintenance of our commercial and recreational harbors and for improving clean water infrastructure for residents of Northwest Indiana. However, I'm deeply disappointed that these essential dollars are undercut by partisan cuts that will slash American jobs, raise energy costs, and make us less safe. This bill doubles down on efforts to eliminate large-scale projects created by the bipartisan infrastructure law. In particular, the bill wipes out the funding for Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, which is charged with overseeing the development of the hydrogen hub projects. In Northwest Indiana, the Midwest Hydrogen Hub was slated to generate 12,000 direct jobs and over the project's lifetime in manufacturing, infrastructure, and energy sectors. The building trades in my district, the Northwest Indiana Building Trades, were planning and relying on massive investments, only to see these projects undermined by bad policy. In April, it was reported that the Department of Energy sought to kill the project, which had already been awarded for the first tranche of funding. In May, the House Ways and Means Committee released a portion of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, which aggressively rolled back the clean energy hydrogen tax credit that provided critical economic incentives for hydrogen production. Then in June, BP, Amoco, and Whiting announced its decision to pause the project indefinitely, citing economic uncertainty. It is clear the federal government serves as an important partner in building these critical projects that would strengthen our energy security, generate thousands of American jobs, and enhance our global competitiveness. I cannot support a bill that further erodes these efforts. Finally, this bill underfunds essential non-proliferation programs that make our community safer. The 17% cut to the Defense Nuclear Non-Proliferation Account makes it more difficult to combat the threat of nuclear terrorism at a time when our adversaries are strengthening and investing in their nuclear arsenals. The Energy and Water Appropriations Bill is intended to promote economic and environmental health in our communities, lower costs for hardworking families, and address the threat of nuclear proliferation. These objectives should not be partisan. However, this bill neglects to invest in long-term efforts to strengthen our energy security, grow our economy, and make our nation safer. I urge my colleagues to reject the partisan legislation, instead work in a bipartisan manner to promote the health and safety of our communities. Thank you. I yield back.
Thank the gentleman for his comments. Seeing no amendments, I now recognize Mr. Cloud for the purpose of making a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the bill be favorably reported to the full committee.
The question is on the motion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. No. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. Recognize the ranking member.
Mr. Chair, on that, I request a recorded vote, please.
A recorded vote has been requested. All those in favor of a recorded vote, raise your hand. A sufficient number in support, a recorded vote is ordered. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Calvert? Aye. Mr. Calvert, aye. Mr. Cloud? Aye. Mr. Cloud, aye. Mr. Clyburn? No. Mr. Clyburn, no. Mr. Fleischman?
Aye.
Mr. Fleischman, aye. Mr. Franklin? Aye. Mr. Franklin, aye. Mr. Guest? Aye. Mr. Guest, aye. Ms. Capter? No. Ms. Capter, no. Ms. Lee? Mr. Levin? No. Mr. Levin, no. Ms. Malloy? Aye. Ms. Malloy, aye. Mr. Mervan? No. Mr. Mervan, no. Mr. Newhouse? Mr. Newhouse, aye. Mr. Reschenthaler? Aye. Mr. Reschenthaler, aye. Mr. Simpson? Aye. Mr. Simpson, aye. Ms. Wasserman Schultz? Mr. Cole?
Aye.
Mr. Cole, aye. Ms. DeLauro? No. Ms. DeLauro, no.
The clerk will tally. Indeed. Well said. Oh, that's great. On this vote, the ayes are 10, the noes are 5. The bill is favorably reported to the full committee. Okay. I ask unanimous consent that the staff be permitted to make technical and conforming changes to the bill and report. Without objection, so ordered. Copies of the bill and report with the technical and conforming changes will be delivered to all full committee members' offices no later than 3 business days before full committee. Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes today's markup. The committee now stands adjourned. Thank you.